Hey friends, CowboyJobu here with the Jobu Sports Report. And as always, thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing to the Jobu Sports Report. This damn hair is driving me crazy. Anyway, it looks like the Tony Romo era is coming to an end. That's right, Tony Romo will be released tomorrow, barring a trade. How do you guys feel about that? Tony, I want to thank you for all the great memories, all the great games, and everything you've done for the Dallas Cowboys. And I wish you well wherever you end up. Let's go to NFL Network for the latest.
The free agency frenzy reaches its frenzied peak, perhaps at this moment. Breaking news, we've got reports from Jane Slater down in Frisco, Texas, as Ian Rappaport and Omar Ruiz, who is in Houston, join us. Jane, what have the Cowboys told Tony Romo?
Well, I can tell you that Tony Romo will be released on Thursday. This has been the expectation all along, something that we've been reporting this week. And what it does is it supports Jerry Jones' comments over the weekend, the do-right rule. And the best way to do right by Tony Romo is to release him when free agency begins so that he can have a full array of options to start going and talking to some of those rumored teams that are interested, teams like Broncos and teams like the Texans. This is a sad turn for Tony Romo, though. He is a guy that is respected in this city, started out his career in 2003 as an undrafted quarterback out of Eastern Illinois. He became the starter in 2006, and sadly, there have been so many twists and turns for his career. I think a lot of fans would have liked to have seen him stay, and no one could have possibly predicted that an injury in the preseason against Seattle would have led to him leaving this team here in 2017.
Well, Jane, and you're right. This is the expected outcome. It really has been, as you've talked about this week, for the Dallas Cowboys. They're moving forward with Dak Prescott as their starter, really the future of their quarterback position. They hope for the next 10 or 12 years. But for Tony Romo, this really is just the beginning of things. He has been expecting his release and really wanted his release for some time. And two very interested suitors, one, the Denver Broncos, and two, the Houston Texans. Both of these teams have done their homework on Tony Romo. Both of these teams would like to be in the Tony Romo market. Just remains to be seen what that market is actually going to look like. What number is Tony Romo willing to accept? Is it going to be, say, in the $10 or $12 million range, something that'd be more palatable to the Broncos, maybe even less for the Houston Texans? All of those things are now kind of up in the air as we are getting official word that Tony Romo will be released on Thursday. And the other interesting thing is, are there going to be any other suitors? There's also a team like, say, the San Francisco 49ers, who is trying to build its roster right now. His family's from the West Coast. A lot of balls in the air now for Tony Romo, but at least we have some finality on the situation.
Yeah, some finality that will be final coming up tomorrow, Omar. Looking at the Houston Texans and Rick Smith, and as Ian was talking about setting the market, what are the realistic chances here that the Texans make that first move to try to bring Tony Romo in?
Well, you heard about Ian mentioning the interest that the Texans might have. Obviously, a championship caliber defense and offense that has weapons on the outside. They have Lamar Miller at running back. I think if you ask Tony Romo, the Texans would be an ideal situation for him. They're out of the same division, out of the same conference as the Cowboys, still near his family, near his kids, just across state here in Houston. But in terms of the salary cap situation for the Texans, they started free agency with about $23 million to spend. They brought back Shane Leckler, their punter, and Nick Novak, their kicker. So notwithstanding that money, the terms that are being thrown around, we heard Ian mention maybe 10, 12 million, perhaps more. It all seems to be very affordable at this point for the Texans. We know Chris Olsen, the salary cap guru for the Texans, has his work cut out for him. If they were to bring in Tony Romo, they'd probably have to say goodbye to their emerging star corner, A.J. Bouye, who's probably going to set the market at corner. The numbers being talked about for him, $12 million range, someone they consider very important to what they do defensively. However, they do have three other corners of high profile: Kareem Jackson, Jonathan Joseph, and Kevin Johnson already in the mix, a deep class in the draft class at corner. So if they had to say goodbye to A.J. Bouye to really bolster the roster with a franchise quarterback, it's something that they'd probably do.
And Omar, the reason why Houston and Denver continue to be some of those rumored teams that are interested is because there is sort of this understanding that the Cowboys, by doing right by Tony, are releasing him with the idea that he's not going to enter into negotiations with any teams that are NFC East opponents. These are AFC teams, and I'll tell you, the reason why Tony essentially wants this release is he still believes that he's got fuel left in the tank. He still wants a Lombardi trophy. He still wants to compete and make it to the Super Bowl. This is a guy that's turning 37 in April and still believes that he can take a team there. But the team that he wants to go to is one that's pretty much ready-made, that's just looking for a quarterback. And I'll tell you, Houston is the most intriguing to me. I know Denver's been talked about a lot, but in terms of the AFC South and how much easier that division is versus the AFC West, I think that it makes more sense. The Cowboys moving forward, they brought in Josh McCown as a backup quarterback this afternoon. This is a guy that's going to turn 38 July 4th. He has 60 career starts, an 18-42 record, but this seems to suggest that he'll be the backup for Dak Prescott. It gives him that veteran presence in the quarterback's room, and this is a East Texas native. They've been interested in him before, a guy that they were rumored to have pursued back in after the Seattle game when he was injured in that preseason one. So this was looking to happen last year, and it looks like Josh McCown might be a good fit for the Cowboys, but he is in Frisco this afternoon.
Well, you're right, Jane. There really is a lot to like with the Houston Texans, who've done their homework on Romo and really like what they've seen when he's been on the field for the past couple of years. But in Romo's mind, from what I understand, he has been targeting the Denver Broncos all along. That is, when he knew that Dak Prescott had basically taken over for him and taken his job in Dallas, the Denver Broncos were the first on his mind. And maybe at that point, it did not seem like the Texans would really be a possibility. Of course, it seemed like they were set with quarterback position, which they are absolutely not. But the Broncos were always one that has intrigued Tony Romo. But either way, one thing we know, Romo has never been the quarterback with a defense like either of these two teams have.
Yeah, a lot to look ahead to with the Tony Romo sweepstakes. Gets its official start today. We'll wait to see tomorrow for the real kickoff of the Romo sweepstakes. Thanks to Ian Rappaport, Jane Slater, and Omar Ruiz.